They say it falls at the same time, and now it has to. Yeah. Okay. Good morning. 28B. A few hundred people. I don't know there. Gary, Charles, hopefully Donna. Okay. So this two brothers were asking each other questions.
We are here.
We are here. Good. So Ayefa and his brother. So his brother's asking him all these questions and then telling him, "Oh, that's a mistake." So we're up to Shavuot shelo ochel eser v'teisha. So somebody makes an oath, I'm not going to eat these 10 loaves, and then another oath saying I'm not going to eat these 9 loaves. So the same 10 loaves, and he makes 2 oaths. One, I'm not eating 10, and one is that I'm not eating 9 of them.
This one's in the other sequence.
In the other sequence, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Good morning, Jared. So, are you liable 1 or are you liable 2? Now, when he says I'm not gonna eat 10, so then 10 he's not gonna eat, but 9 he will eat. So simply understood, it'll for sure work, right? I'm not gonna eat 10, but on 9 of them you will eat. There's no problem with 9, so it should work for 9. So Eino chayv ala achas. So at first his brother responded, "You're only liable 1 because since these 9 already have an oath upon them, so maybe the second one's not going to work." To which he responds, "No, you made a mistake. Eser hu delo ochel, you're right. You said 10 you're not going to eat, but only 10. But hateisha, 9 you will eat. So therefore, 9 is still available, so to speak, to have an oath work for 9, and therefore you're going to be liable. You're going to be liable too. If you end up eating all 10, you'll be liable for eating 9 and liable for eating 10. So, as for the but okay, Amar Abaye though, that which Ayefa just said, that when the guy says 10 and then 9, you're only liable 1, to which his brother said, "No, you're wrong, you're liable 2." Abaye says sometimes we could find a case that would be similar to what Ayefa just said. Where there's a case that's similar to this, which is going to be like the opinion of Ayefa, that you're only going to be liable 1. What's that case? Kidemar, Damar Rabba Shvuot shelo ochel te'enim ve'anavim. So a guy made an oath. A guy made an oath saying that what? He's not eating figs and grapes today. Today he's not going to eat figs and grapes. So if today he eats figs and grapes, so then he's violated his shvuah. Fine. So I'm not eating figs and grapes. Then he makes another oath and he says, "Because of Amr, I'm just not eating figs." So now, if he only eats figs, that's only a violation of the second oath, because the first oath was, "I'm not eating figs and grapes." Next page. And he goes and he eats te'enim. In the case, let's say he forgot that he made a vow not to eat figs. And he ended up eating figs, but only figs, not grapes. And for that, he has to bring a korban now. So the hifresh korban, he separates an offering to be brought. The achar kach achal anavim, and after he already forgot, ate the figs, separated, designated a korban to be brought, he goes and then he eats grapes. Achal anavim lechudayu. So he didn't eat the grapes and figs together. He goes and he forgets that he made that first oath about eating grapes. So now, the Gemara is assuming now, like, once you've designated a sacrifice already, so that oath, so to speak, is done. So now, when you eat the grapes alone, so now your first oath was no figs and no grapes. You have to eat them together, or at least in one day. But here, the figs, you're already paying the price for that. You already designated a sacrifice for that. So now, when you eat the grapes, the grapes only half of the original oath. The original oath was grapes and figs, and since you've already designated your sacrifice for the figs, sounds like that's like that ends your oath once the sacrifice has been designated. So now that you forgot and you ate the grapes, that's only half of your first oath. For half of your first oath, you're not going to be liable. So in this case, you'll only be liable 1. So this case is similar to I won't eat 10 and then I won't eat 9. I won't eat grapes and figs and then I won't eat figs. That's similar. Ayefa said, for if you say I'm not going to eat 10 and then I'm not going to eat 9 of the loaves, you're only liable 1. So this case is very similar to that. I'm not going to eat figs and grapes. That's like I'm not going to eat these 10 loaves. Then you say I'm not going to eat grapes. That's like saying I'm not going to eat 9 of these loaves. Except in this case, it's when you forgot and then you ended up eating the figs and you remembered and designated a sacrifice for it. So that's already like your oath is over. And now when you eat the grapes, that's only half of your first oath. For half of an oath, you're not liable to bring a sacrifice. So Hachanami, similar case we're going to say now, the Amr Shavuot Ochel Eser. So you made the guy made a Shavuot not to eat 10. And then he made another Shavuot, I'm not going to eat 9. Now, on the 9, he forgot about. He ended up eating 9 of these loaves of bread, or nine pieces of pizza. Right? These 10 pieces I'm not eating. And then he says again, these 9 pieces I'm not eating. He blanks out on the 9 and eats them. The Hifrish Korban, I got a stomach ache, yeah. And then Hifrish Korban, and then designates a Korban, a sacrifice. And then he goes and he eats the 10th piece of pizza or the 10th loaf of bread. So, well, the 9, which is his second oath that he forgot about, and then he ate, and then he remembered and designated a sacrifice. That's like that oath is over already. Now you just ate the 10th loaf. That's like half of your oath. Your oath was that you're not going to eat 10. So included in 10 is 1 through 9. But then you made a second oath about those 9, forgot about it, ate 9, designated a sacrifice. So for 9 of the loaves, you're already atoning for that. So all you have left is a 10th loaf. Well, your first oath was 10 loaves, not a 10th loaf. So just eating the 10th loaf is really only part of your original oath of 10 loaves. And therefore, for violating part of your oath, you're not liable to sacrifice. Havilah series chatzi shir, the chatzi shir lo mechayev. For a 10th, for half of an amount, you're not liable. You have to violate your entire oath. So there's one case that it could be Ayefa is right, that you'll be liable only one. Yeah. Okay. Shavuot Shav, a Shavuot, that vanity, that nothingness. So, Ezehi Shavuot Shav. What's an example of a Shavuot Shav? So an example is Nishba l'shanos es hayadua la'adam. You go, we had this already. You go and you want to change what's known to people. So you make a swear that the coffee mug's really a camel, right? So according to at least most people, so that's not going to. It's a camelback. Okay, right. So according to most people, a coffee mug is a coffee mug and not a camel. Okay. So Amar ala amuchel Evan shehu shalzav. Interesting to me why we have to have Oh no, sorry, never mind. The post made out of stone, you say it's made out of gold. That's not true. I'm not getting too political, but you tell about a woman, you make an oath that is really a man is really a woman. Or maybe let's get political, yeah. Yeah. So if somebody asks you, it's a Mishnah on Chavtas and Shavuos. Yeah, that kind of oath is an oath of vanity. That's not true. It's interesting why you have to have like multiple examples of this. I mean, like, and the Mishnah is clear. If you say about something which is known to be X, then it's Y. But about the post, that's a stone, then gold. A man, that's a woman. A woman, that's a man. That's interesting why it continues. Because often the Gemara talks about the Mishnah, says, is the Mishnah a peddler? Just goes on and on and on and on. Right. So what's the line? Is it a peddler? Is it not a peddler? So usually you can find some novelty in why it's adding extra cases, which I'm not sure what that is over here. Okay. Now, Isha Shehi, a woman, that's a man, fine. Nishpa al davar she'i efshar lo. So another example is, which this is definitely somewhat novel, something which can't be. So you say, yeah, if a guy makes a swear, if I never saw a camel flying. So camels don't fly usually, right? So that's a shvua that is in vain. Nothing. Shapareh that flies in the air. I've never seen a snake the size of an olive press. So the girl's gonna ask, well, there's snakes that are that big, Okay, so Amar le'edim or Amar le'edim bo v'heyeduni shvua shalona idcha. So there's witnesses that saw a case, and then he asked them to come testify that they're not witnesses, that they did not see the case. Well, they can't do that. They have a mitzvah to go testify. You can't make a shvua against the mitzvah. So that would be which is not true. Nishpa levatel is a mitzvah. Shelo la'aso sukkah. A shvua that you're not going to make a sukkah. Shelo to lulav. You're not going to make a lulav. You're not going to shake lulav. V'shelo la'aniach tefillin. You're not going to put on tefillin. Zuhi shvua shav. These are examples of a shvua shav, the oath that's in vain. Shechayav el zman makos. If you violate it advertently, you get lashes. If you violate it inadvertently, then you're going to be liable. Then you're going to be exempt. No sacrifice. Shvua she'ochel kikar zu. A guy makes an oath, I will eat this loaf. I will eat this piece of pizza. So shvua, and then you say shvua shelo ochlena, and then you make an oath that I'm not going to eat it. Well, too bad. You're already liable. You're already obligated to eat it. So your oath that I'm not going to eat it is going against your first oath. That's in vain. So harishona shvuas bitu. Your first oath, I will eat, is a regular oath of utterance, and therefore you're going to be obligated. But hashniya, trying to nullify that, is called a shvua shav. That you are going to be, that's a shvua which is in vain, and therefore you're going to be liable for that. So now, what happens if you go and you eat that? Achla. So you made an oath to eat a loaf of bread, and you went and you ate it. So now, overall shvua shav, you violated your shvua shav, your shvua in vain, which said that you're not going to eat it. You went and you violated that. So lo achla, if you did eat the loaf, so then you violated your oath of utterance because you said you're going to eat it and you didn't eat it. Okay. Amar Ula, this idea that you have to about something which is known. If you swear that it's something else, what does known mean? Amar Ula v'hushin nikar l'shlosha b'nei adam. 3 people is already considered known. So yeah, Hilchos Lashon Hara comes up. Special halakha when you say Lashon Hara, 3 people, right? Or the other way, if people already know about it, what's know about it? 3 people know about it. So okay. So nishbal davar shihav sharlo imlo ra'isi gamal parech b'aver. Right. So the Mishnah said, if you make an oath about I never saw a camel flying in the air. So says the Gemara, what is that? Shvua shira'isi lo cover. You didn't make an oath in a positive, you made it in a negative. Why didn't you say an oath that I saw a camel flying? Why did you say an oath that I didn't see a camel flying? So says the Gemara, my im lo ra'isi. He said, no. The Mishnah means to say, teach that it meant I saw a camel flying. You made an oath, I saw a camel flying in the air. That's a oath which is in vain. Rav Amar, no, keep the Mishnah the way it is. Don't amend the Mishnah. Really, you're making an oath that you never saw a camel flying. What's the case? But Omer, yes, or kol perishable. A guy makes a vow, I'm prohibiting all fruits in the world upon myself. In the event, im lo ra'isi gamal pareh b'aver, in the event that I never saw a camel flying in the air. As long as I never saw a camel flying in the air, then all the fruits will be prohibited upon me. So obviously, that's something which is impossible, and therefore it's not going to be good.
They didn't have comics in the
Yeah, they even have comics, right? There you go. You're Oregonian. You put this in, yeah. So Amar Le Ravina to Ravashi says Ravina to Ravashi. So this can be interesting now. What if, right? Vidilma Hayigavra Tzipora Rabachazi. What if the guy really saw a huge bird? Now, huge birds do fly in the air, right? Mm-hmm. So, and what happened? He calls that big bird, instead of big bird, he calls it a camel, right? But he decided to refer to it. There's pigeons and there's doves. How am I going to refer to my kids when I see the big bird? So big bird is too long. Just say camel, right? So when I say camel, it means a big bird flying in the air. So now what happens in that case? He saw a big bird, and he makes an oath about a camel flying in the air. Now, when he says camel, he doesn't mean a camel flying in the air. He means a big bird flying in the air. So do you go after the way everybody else perceives it? And therefore, when he utters camel, so to the rest of the world, it means that tall thing you see in the zoo. Or do you go after what he has in his heart? That in his world, camel means big bird. So how do you take the shvua after everyone else's understanding, after his own understanding? So the Dilma Hayi Garvatzipo Rabbi Chazi Basikle Shmai Gamla, he decided the name is called camel. The Chika Mishtaba, when he made a shvuah as a daita didei shtaba, he made a shvuah according to his own understanding. So it's not an oath in vain. Camels don't fly. In his house, camels do fly because camel means big bird. Yes. It's two Portland references, yeah. So yeah. So side effects might see flying camels, yeah. So now, and that's gonna be the discussion for the next little while. Do you go after the person's own definition, or do you go after? By the way, when people speak in regular conversation, this happens all the time. Disagreement or misunderstanding is because of this. You say one thing, you meant something totally different than what he heard. Right? His mind, he hears like, "It's so insulting." Like, no, I just meant right. Like, so. But if you understand that in his world it wasn't insulting, then you're not gonna go and hate him. Hopefully, yeah. Okay. So the chitema basar kumeyazlinan. Maybe you'll tell me we go after the mouth, which means after what everyone else thinks, and not what he thinks. Below basar adaite. So maybe you'll say that when he says camel, it has to go according to the word camel. Look up in the dictionary, whatever that means, that's the oath, not whatever he thinks. But how could it be? The Hatanya, we learned in a brisa, Kishemashbino. So when the court makes someone swear, what do they tell him? Omrim lo, they tell him, you should know that when you're swearing, you're not swearing on your own knowledge, whatever you think. Bezdin say we're not making you swear based on your own knowledge. Ella al datenu val das bezdin, right? Like we brought up Kollel yesterday. Al das samakom al das bezdin. You're going according to according to our knowledge. So why does bezdin say that? And we're making you swear not according to your knowledge, according to our knowledge. Isn't it for this reason? My time alav mishum damrinan. Well, we're going to think Dilma is karun de yahivle va'asik leuzuzeh. That so in the case of the guy says, right, Reuben comes and says, Shimon owes me money, and Shimon says, I don't owe you anything. So he has to now make a swear that he doesn't owe Reuben anything. Now what's going to happen? He's going to in his head he gave back pieces of wood called iskundre, these small pieces of wood, and he refers to them as zuzi, as coins, right? So they make him a shvuah that you didn't pay the guy back any coins. It's like no problem, So since he refers to these pieces of wood as coins, so then when he makes the shvuah that he kamishtaba, adaite didei kamishtaba, so then he's going to make a shvuah according to his own knowledge. He'll say, yeah, I never gave back any coins, or I don't know how many coins. In his mind, coins means pieces of wood. So yeah, that's for sure. I never owe him. He happens to owe the guy $1 million, but since he decided in his house that wooden pieces are called coins, it's called money. So therefore, I don't owe him any money. So for that reason, Bezdin says we're not making you swear according to what you think it's called. Isn't this a good proof that that's why we do that? Says Gemara Lo. You can't necessarily bring a proof from there. Why? Hasa mishum Kanya de Rava. So apparently it's a whole story that happened with Rava that the guy owed money, and so Reuben said Shimon Yomi money. Shimon gave him like a hollow reed, I believe, a cane of reed, yeah, and inside the reed he hid the money inside, and he made a shvuah that he gave him back the money. And then, I think what happened was the guy went and snatched the reed, and all the money came out. So really, it's because of that we because to avoid this situation, that's why we make the guy swear. So, yeah, okay. So Tashma, let's try to bring another proof. V'chein matzinu. Here's the Shavuos reference. Kishihishbia Moshe. This is talking about by the end of Devarim, when we're by the Arvos by Moab. And we made a swear to obligate us in everything that the Torah says for now and forever. Moshe told the Jewish people, you should know. I'm not going to make you swear according to your own knowledge. Ani mashbias and ela al das makom, really on Hashem's knowledge and on my knowledge. It's what we think, how we understand what the Torah is, not how way you understand it. So says the Gemara, why did he say that? Lema lahu kaimi mai da amar eloka. Just make a shvua, fulfill that which God said. Just say it simply. Why have to go on the knowledge of God and my knowledge? Just say, make a shvua. Whatever God says, you should keep. Just do that. Lav mishum, is it not because the maskia daitaihu avodos kachavim? Is it not because really we're worried about that a shvua, it goes after the way you understand it, and not the way everyone else understands it. Therefore, if you would have said, do whatever Eloka, which means God, they could have understood that as referring to idol worship. Idol worship, because that's also Elohim, also refers to idol worship. So, therefore, he wanted to make it, the way God thinks about it. But really, it should be a proof that really a general oath, unless you say this, goes after your definition and not after others' definition. Says the Gemara, no, that's not a good answer. Why? Lo mishum da avodos kachavim nami ikri eloka. Really, the fact that they would have referred to Eloka, meaning referred to God, they would have understood that to mean idol worship. It's not true, because the word Eloka itself in the Torah is also used in reference to idol worship. So you don't have a proof that they would have gone according to their own definition. The word Eloha is referring to also idols. Dichsiv, Elohei Kesef, the Elohei Zahav. Gods of silver and gods of gold, right? You shouldn't make for me. So therefore, that's not a good proof one way or the other, because that word itself is can refer to idol worship. So Moshe couldn't have told them, do whatever it says, whatever Eloha says. Moshe was referring to God, but that word itself is very vague. It can also refer to idol worship. So that wouldn't be a good option. Okay. The lema lahu, but he could have told them like this: Kaimu Torah. Keep the Torah, period. No ambiguity in that. It's like, you can imagine, like a good Jew. He only said Torah, Chada Torah, only one Torah. We got two Torahs, rain Torah, oral Torah, right? That kid in the classroom, right? So Hashem knew the Jewish people very well, right? So Kaimu Torah, well, that's only one Torah, Chada Torah, and we got both oral Torah and written Torah. So V'lema Kaimu Shtei Toros. So then he should have told the Jewish people, you should accept, do whatever it says in both Torahs. Well, the word Torah is also referenced in Vayikra to Torahs Chatas, Torahs Asham, which means like the topic, the teachings of a Chatas, teaching of an Asham. So the word Torah, that can refer to all of a sudden, instead of the whole Torah, two Torahs, it's really referring to like a specific section of karbanos, of sacrifices. So that not going to be a good option either. So Torahs Asham Kaimu. Can't it just be easy getting the Torah right now? So, yeah, right? What's so hard about this? Yeah. So, well, Moshe had a good idea. He made them swear on whatever Hashem thinks it means, period. That's it. Done deal. We're just going through all the options of why he did that. So, why didn't it say, Kaimu kol haTorah kula? Why don't you accept the Torah in its entirety? So, how do you get out of that one? It says, well, avodos kachavim. That could be reference to idol worship. Why? The marmar chamura avodos kachavim shekol hakofer ba kimoda b'chol haTorah kula. Avodos kachavim, idol worship, is so severe. Anybody who denies it, it's like he's admitting to the whole Torah. And it's as bad as the whole Torah. Doing idol worship is like tantamount to violating the entire Torah. So if you'd have said the entire Torah, it could be really a reference to idol worship and not a reference to the entire Torah. Okay. The leimilahu kaimi mitzvah. You should keep it. You should have told it. Moshe should have told them. So accept upon yourselves, with an oath, to keep the mitzvah. So says the word. Okay, that's chad mitzvah. That's only one mitzvah. Which one? Okay, you should keep mitzvos in the plural. Kaima mitzvos. So it says that that's only for the two mitzvahs. That's only two mitzvahs. Okay, kol ha-mitzvahs kulan. So tell them, make an oath to keep all the mitzvahs. Yeah, but mitzvahs tzitzis, that might be only referring to tzitzis. Why? The Amar shekula mitzvahs tzitzis. The mitzvah of tzitzis is equal to kineged kol mitzvahs kulan. Is equal to all the mitzvahs. So saying all the mitzvahs could have been a reference to just one mitzvah, the mitzvah of tzitzis. So, okay. So you should accept upon yourself all 613. So he should have said that. And instead, he didn't say that. Instead, he said you should accept the mitzvahs according to Hashem's knowledge and according to my understanding. So says the Gemara, okay, so you want to prove from there that really we go after a person's own definition. That's why he had to specify that it's going according to Hashem's definition. Well, the Latameh, according to that reasoning, Leimalahu al Daiti. He should just say, according to my understanding. Moshe should say, according to my understanding. What do you need according to God's understanding also? That seems superfluous. So Moshe understands it one way. However he understands it, that should have been the oath. What's al das hamakom? It seems extra. And also the way God understands it. Well, God taught it to me, so the way I understand it, it should be like that. Ella, turn the page. The reason why he made the shua, the oath, by accepting the Torah was, he could have said, keep all 613, and that would have been good. But instead, he said it's according to my knowledge and according to God's knowledge, or according to my knowledge. Why? Because then it was going according to a plural, Moshe and Hashem. A shvua that's made on the knowledge of plural of a multitude of people, that can't be annulled. If it's made al das one person, it can be annulled. But if it's made on the knowledge of multiple people, or in this case Hashem and Moshe, therefore it can't be annulled. So he chose to use that language in order that it can never be annulled. It can never get out of this oath. Sorry. Yeah. So that's that. So you do not have a proof at the end of the day that you go after your own definition. Really, you go after, when he utters it, you go after the person's mouth and not the person's own definition. And that's when the Mishnah says that about a camel flying, it's referring to a camel flying, irrelevant if in your house you refer to big birds as camels. And the reason why Moshe phrased it in this way is because he wanted to make sure the oath was made with the knowledge, on condition of many people, of multiple people, of Moshe and Hashem, in order that it can't be annulled. Yeah, the Shavua that bound us, and I guess it makes sense. It itself kept the laws of Shavua. So yeah, so fine. I didn't see if I didn't see a snake the size of an olive press. Says Gemara, that's not so uncommon. Yeah, below the Bishani Shvur Malka, in the years that Shvur Malka was the king, there was one that was able to contain 13 stables full of straw. It's a huge snake. It's way bigger than an olive press. So what does that mean? That's not something that's not like a camel flying. That's impossible, but this is possible. Shmuel, you're right. So it's B'tara. It sounds like it's not that the snake is so big, it's like an olive press in terms of it's very flat on both sides. So a B'tara that it's flat. Says the Gemara, Kuhu Nami Mitrop. What do you mean they're all flat on their stomachs? So no, Trifim Bishagavu Tara. It's flat not only on its stomach, but it's like flat also on its back. Usually the snake is a little bit more puffier on the back, right? It comes up. Somehow this was flat like an olive press. Bad snakes aren't. They're not flat like an olive press. So therefore, when you make an oath about a snake like an olive press, you're referring to a snake that has it's flat on both sides. So that's not something which is possible, and therefore that's considered an oath that's in vain. You make an oath that you're going to eat this loaf, and then you make an oath that you're not going to eat it. So the Mishnah said, if you eat it, you fulfilled your utterance oath and you violated your in vain oath. If you don't eat it, you violated your oath of utterance. You have not violated your oath in vain. On that, the Gemara asks, it sounds like you're only obligated one. If you say, I'm going to eat this loaf, and then you make a shvu, you make an oath, I'm not going to eat it, and you're only liable one. Why should that be true? The second you're obligated to eat it, and you made an oath to not eat it, you should also be liable for the oath that's in vain. So, hare yatzta shvu l'shav, when it exited your mouth, it itself is in vain. You have to wait for it to happen. You're obligated now to eat the loaf. If now you make a shvua that I'm not going to eat the loaf right away, that's in vain. That's vanity. That's like saying a table's a chair. For that, you should be liable. Rabbi Yomi, you're right. Tani af al shvuos bitui. It just means to say, of course, you're liable for the Shavuot Shav, just that you're also going to be liable for a Shavuot's Bita, the oath of utterance, if you end up not eating that loaf, you're for sure going to be liable for the oath of vanity because the time you uttered it, you were already obligated. It just teaches that you're also going to be obligated if you don't eat that oath for the Af al Shavuos, even for the oath of utterance. You'll be liable also.
Liable for what?
Yeah. No. If you don't eat it, you'll be liable both. If you don't, so I will eat the loaf, and then you make a shvuah, an oath, I will not eat the loaf. So right away, you're liable for I will not eat the loaf, because right now you're obligated. And now when you don't eat it, you'll be liable both. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Comes a next Mishnah. Shvuah's bitu, a shvuah of utterance. No heges ba nashim ubenashim. That shvuah is relevant to both men and to women. Vikrovim, your relatives. Berachokim, your non-relatives. Viksherim, people, someone who's kosher. Bapsulim, we'll see what that is. Bapsulim, people who are not able to testify. I think it's just setting it up to compare it to another oath. So, b'fnei bezdin, b'shlo b'fnei bezdin, you can make an oath of utterance in court, out of court, doesn't matter. B'piatzmo, you can make it on your own. Someone else can make you make it. B'chayavin, on your own, you can make it. If you violate it advertently, you're liable. If you violate it inadvertently, you're liable a variable offering. That's one oath, both of oath of utterance. An oath that's of vanity, shvuas shav, that we just talked about. That's also no heges be'anashim, men ubenashim, women berachokim ubekrovim. It applies to everybody, whether it's your relative or non-relative. B'ksheir and b'psul, a guy who could testify, can't testify, doesn't matter. That oath applies to everybody. In front of bezdin, b'fnei bezdin, b'shlo b'fnei bezdin, not in front of bezdin. Mipiatzmo, you can make it on your own. B'chayav and alzdonik makos v'ashkasa pater. You're liable on, if you do it advertently, lashes. Inadvertently, you're exempt, no korban. Okay. Both of these oaths, whether you're oath of utterance or oath of vanity, achazu v'achazu, hamushum v'acherim kayim. Someone else says, swear to me that you won't eat that loaf. And you say, we're going to see, you say, amen to that, then you're going to be liable. So, fine, that's that. Now, Kate, I guess I don't know word Kate said, what's the case? So, lo achalti hayom, making sure that you didn't eat today. Lo hinach tefillin, making sure that I didn't put on tefillin today. And now the guy tells you, mashbiachani, so I'm making you swear about that. The guy says, yeah, I didn't put on tefillin today. And then Reuven jumps in, swear about that. In the name of God, swear about that. And the guy says, amen, just says amen. So that's going to be enough to make you liable. He'll be liable. So both of these oaths, someone else can impose a swear upon you. So they could say, I swear in the name of God, blah, blah, that you did not wear tefillin today. He goes, amen. That's going to be enough. Amar Shmuel, Kol ha'ona amen. Anybody that says amen achar shvuah after an oath is kemoti shum b'mipibdami. It's as if he utters an oath from his mouth. It has that same status as if you uttered your own oath. Saying amen to someone else's oath is like you uttered your own oath. How do I know? And we have Steve is good for you. A double one. This week's Parshas Naso by the Sota. They make her swear, and she says amen, amen. The Amra Isha, amen, amen. And from there you learn that when she says amen to the oath, that's as if you uttered amen on your own. Amra Papa Mishnah, the Rav Masis and the Brisa Nami Dega Dekatani. The Mishnah and a Brisa are both a support for this idea that saying amen is going to help. Shvuas ha'edus. So Shvuas ha'edus. So we have an oath, which is the next Mishnah really, an oath of testimony. So we'll see that where a guy says, I don't. He swears that he does not know testimony. Yeah. So Shavuos Eidos, that, which is the next mission really, that goes for men, for women, only for men, not for women. They can't make that shvuah because they can't testify. It applies to only people who are your non-relatives, who can't be your witness. Not someone who can be your witness. Only someone who's able to testify can make an oath of testimony, and not by someone who's invalid to testify. and it only is going to work by people that are fitting to testify. Ubifnei bezdin, and in front of bezdin, in front of court. Vishlo bifnei bezdin. Now, if you make this oath outside of bezdin, so like this, mipi atzmo, umipi atzmo, umipi acherim, einan chayav, you're not liable. Achiyichbru behen bebezdin. Divrei Reb Meir. According to Reb Meir, someone says, "I know you know testimony," and the guy makes an oath. I don't know testimony. It's only when you deny it in court, not outside. It has to be in court. It sounds like the oath of testimony is like a subcategory of testimony, which has to be done in front of a court of three people, in front of Bezdin. That's Reb Meir. Okay, so that's the Mishnah. Now, V'tanya B'Brisa, and the Brisa says, Shvua Sa'edus Ketan. What's the case? Amar L'Eidin Aduni Shvua She'eina Yodalach Edus. Come and testify to me that you don't know any testimony about the case. So Reuben kills Shimon, and two other guys are there. You're like, listen, testify to me that you guys don't know any testimony. Okay. O Sha'amru, or they themselves say, I don't know testimony. And he says, oh, you don't know? I'm going to impose an oath upon you. And they say, Va'amru amen. And they say amen. Two different ways of making this oath. Bain b'fnei bezdin, bain shel b'fnei bezdin, whether it's in bezdin or outside of bezdin. Bain mipi atzma, whether it's on your own, or bain mipi acherim, someone else imposes it upon you and you say amen. Kevan shekafar b'hen chayavin. Divrei Reb Meir. So here Reb Meir says, outside of court works. As long as you deny it, sounds like even outside of court, it's going to work. But Reb Meir just told us before, you have to deny it only in court, not outside of court. Kashan ahadadi. So you have a contradiction. Reb Meir against Reb Meir. Can you make an oath of testimony outside of court? Yes or no? Mishnah said yes. Brisa said no. And they're both the opinion of Reb Meir. So how are we going to answer? Alav shma mina. It depends. Ha de ana amen and ha de lo ana amen. It depends. One is the case where you said amen, and one is the case where you didn't say amen. Okay, which is which? Presumably the one outside of court. The one outside of court is the one where if you say on your own, it works. And the one in court is where you can say amen.
Mishnah deals with the case where the witnesses did not.
They said on their own.
Let's say in the right, there must be.
Yeah, which is which?
Coming up, Mishnah.
I know, but which is which? We just answered a contradiction. Can you make an oath outside of court? Can you not make an oath outside of court? So it's a Mishnah against the Bryce. So we answered, it depends. The case you say amen versus the case you don't say amen. So outside of court, I think if you make it on your own,
Outside of court.
it'll work or it won't work.
There it seems to think outside of court it'll work.
It'll work. So outside of court, if you say amen, it'll work. And inside of court, it's not going to work until you deny it.
Maybe if we go further, it'll tell us. I don't know.
Nope. Right here it tells you. It's a good try. Jared's a good try though.
Usually that's what happens with them. They find if I have a question, maybe wait a while after.
It's on the next side.
No, but right now we answered. 1 second.
I think it's the Mishnah referring to Amen.
Josh, here.
And the right there.
Mm-hmm. The Mishnah's case is where the witnesses responded to. He's liable only if he made a denial in court. But if he answered amen to what they said, so then he's liable even outside of court. So if he says amen to them, he's liable even outside of court. He's liable even outside of court. But what do you see from here? That the way to solve this Mishnah and this Brisa, the only way we understand it to not have a contradiction in the world of Rav Meir is by saying that one case where he said amen and one case where he didn't say amen. So what do you see from here? The Mishnah and the Brisa hold of this concept. They already taught us this concept of saying amen. So if that's true, Shmuel it comes later. He's an Amor, not a Tana. He comes later. So what is he teaching me? So the Ela Shmuel, my Kana Shmuel. Sounds like Shmuel had this big novelty. If you say amen, it's like you made a Shmuel. It's like you made an oath. We knew that already. So the Ela Shmuel, my Kana Shmuelan, it's the Yukad the Masisin Kana Shmuel. Shmuel is just telling us that 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 you can find this in the Mishnah. That right, meaning Shavuot is telling us that by the first Shavuot you make, the oath of utterance, it only works when you do it on your own. Mipi atzmo. The only time it's going to work if you say amen is by other kinds of oaths. But an oath of utterance is only going to be a good oath if you do it on your own. But if someone else makes you, says, you're not going to eat a loaf today, you say amen to that, it's not going to work. It's only going to work by other kinds of oaths. By that kind of oath, it's not going to work. Yeah. Okay. What time? An hour before Mincha?
Yeah.
Mincha tonight's later than usual, no? 8:30. Oh, tomorrow night.